Hey there. So today I want to focus on a project that I think is really worth supporting. And I think the person behind it, they're worth supporting too. They came out as pro Comicsgate. They have talked about it often and they understand exactly what that entails. Now when they talk about professionalism, for example, this is someone that has gone out and interacted with people in a very positive light. I have had nothing but positive interactions, and going through their timeline, I actually have noticed quite a few positive examples of what a professional should be. Now within this too, we always talk about not only the professional, but the profession or what they're offering. And I like what they're offering here. Now I'll talk about that in a second, but I want to showcase something that happens when you're associated with Comicsgate. If you don't know who Nasser is, this is Nasser at C2E2 confronting CB Cebulski, asking him about Max Bemis. Now, CB Cebulski, he says something that a lot of people at the time wanted to take to heart and say, let's make excuses for this. But as you look at CB Cebulski moving forward, you can tell what type of person he is. I also love the fact that Nasser got up in front of the EIC of Marvel, in front of all of their editorial, and actually had the gall, the stones to ask this question. So here it is. I'm going to play the entire clip.
Very inspired show. Okay. Sorry. Hello. I had a question about Max Bemis. I just want to know why he's still employed.
Look at the expressions.
Fans, customers, multiple times on Twitter, really disgusting things like to eat his backside. You know, the writers and artists who work for Marvel are personalities in and of themselves, and we cannot control their actions online. They are freelance employees. They're freelance writers and artists. They're not employees of the company. And when unfortunate things like that happen, we do speak with the writers or the artists who have made such comments. I and Jake was his editor, have spoken with Max, and that was an incident that happened last summer, if I remember. It was a one-time thing, and Max understood his actions. I think he has since apologized for them, and there haven't been any incidents since. And everybody makes mistakes. And that was one that Max made and regretted. He didn't realize the community he had that come into. He had kind of his rock star hat on at that point when he was going out and doing that stuff. And he has since come to understand better what being part of the comic community means. And, you know, that I think is going forward. And he's a very good writer. If you read his books, I think Moon Knight's one of the great books that's out now. Fool Killer was a great comic. And just because the guy at that point, said some things that weren't appropriate and has been reprimanded for them, we've been keeping an eye on it. He's been walking the straight and narrow ever since and telling good stories.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it was very interesting with that too, because Tom Brevoort was actually in attendance. You can actually see that from other videos wherein he is answering questions. Jordan D. White is within this. You have everyone there. I'm sure that you have seen yourself maligned as a racist, a sexist, a transphobe, and on. I'm sure that you've seen the label for Nazi and alt-righter. Now, can you imagine being a professional and having those associated with your brand? And of course, these things are meant to harm. You can see it in the way that certain people carry that, and you can see that, of course, in outright discrimination that someone like Nasir here has actually faced. So looking at the brand, saying hashtag move the needle, that was actually one of the things that a lot of people know. Nasir actually posted this. He got this from Zach Kaplan. You can see Zach Kaplan there at C2E2 last month. Finally getting around to reading it. Just finished the first issue, and it is one of the best introductory issues I've ever read. I highly recommend it to everyone. Hashtag move the needle at Top Cow. You can see how that's laid out. Now, of course, Zach Kaplan, when he said that, you can see exactly what type of blowback this receives. Now, you can imagine behind closed doors how this narrative is formulated. And if you're a comic book professional, someone that is trying to go out and do something within this particular vocation, you know how this type of narrative would carry on. Not only that, we've seen it outside of closed doors. We've seen people attack like a Donald DeLay, for example. We've also seen people in higher editorial positions at the big two talk about how you'll never get a job if, over and over again, these people try to intimidate. And even look at this post and its response. So Zach Kaplan says, "Hey Nasir, thanks so much for the praise, but I love the caveat, but I'm not trying to move the needle or support any movements that exclude anyone, just trying to tell a good story. Respectfully, I don't think you should use that hashtag for my work." Now, the blowback that was received for that was immense, and Zach Kaplan took a step back and tried to do damage control. But still, think about putting that on there, and think about the way a person could be labeled for that. Again, if you're putting out a product and your name is branded on it, being customer supportive, actually being pro-consumer movement, that can be damaging. What a day. I mean, what an age to be alive in. Now, not only that, but there was another story that came out from Nasir. I'm going to read this to you. Richard Meyer was right on the stream last night about, if you want to work in comics, unfollow me because they're vicious. There's an artist who did the cover for my novella at C2E2 2018. Me and my brother got 2 commissions from him and almost all the comics at his table. All this totaled up to almost $200. I sent this artist scripts since January. We talked about doing comics together, but nothing official was planned. Today, I found out I was blocked, even though I continually spread his work everywhere. I thought maybe it was a Blockbot fluke, even though he knows I'm in Comicsgate. Nope. Found out I'm deleted on Facebook. My point, I knew he was an SJW. I looked past it because I like his art. But Zach, Yellow Flash, Ethan, that umbrella guy, are right on one thing. SJWs will always turn on you. And you can see people talking about that there. You know, with this too, you can see, like he was saying within that, also, I'm not following anybody. I stick by Comicsgate. So you can see the wave that he is promoting that. You know, he is not stepping out and saying, I'm not going to undo this. I'm not going to unfollow people. These are my people. Now, when people stick their neck out with that, then we stick our neck back out. You know, the one thing we can speak with, we speak with voices, but also we speak with currency. As we walk away from endeavors we do not enjoy, we pick up those that support us. Also, this person, interestingly enough, here they are. You can find them on Twitter. These are the kind of things that they love to throw out there. This is the artist that's being discussed. I just can't understand being upset about the inclusion of everyone in comics. I like to tell myself that the people that read comics I make are smart and nice people. I'd hate to find out that was true. So a guy here talking about inclusion, talking about everyone at the table, is the same guy that decided he would do this because someone pressed the follow button and they're associated with wrong thinkers. You know, too, I mean, when you look at some of the blowback with this, even Eric Larson has had to tell so-called professionals not to go out and block people and on. You can't find the original post that's being responded to here, but Mark Lombardi actually talked about this. He posted as Shadowline, and it caused him problems. See, this is something that's forgotten. And you know what? He's blocked so many people since, and people with Shadowline, they were also blocked, you know, when you followed that. And what a surprise, you know, Nasir here was blocked too. Why? Because this guy, well, he is treated like trash within an industry that thinks that they can gatekeep. So when we see this change here, when we see the opening to support things like this, we should. So anyhow, talking about the project here, because I think that that's important. I've talked about the professional. They've said they are down with you. They said that they stand by and they want to actually do 2 things within that. Offer a good product, be a freaking professional. How cutting edge. I mean, really, what next? Are we going to argue the nuclear family? And yet, for comic book professionals, this is cutting edge. And it's worth worth supporting. So looking at this, Stardust issue 1. It's a one-shot horror sci-fi comic book from Nasir and Sean here. You know, a group of aliens lands on Earth. What happens when there's only one survivor? Horror fanatics Nasir and Sean are proud to introduce their new horror sci-fi comic, Stardust. This is a one-shot issue, and if it does well, there's the potential for Nasir and Sean to launch more horror comics. Now, the art here, I enjoy quite a bit. I mean, I actually like the way that this is set up. I like the feel to it. I actually like the almost Lovecraftian-esque design to some of the aliens, but I like the way that this comes across. You know, you actually have sample pages too. When I was talking to Kat Rocha, she was talking about how to run something successful, and she said to showcase what you're bringing. And when you look at this, this looks solid in my opinion. I actually like the way that it sets up. I like the way the faces almost emote as well. I wonder where this will go. You know, and when you look at what it offers, I mean, it has like kind of horror element to it within this. I mean, you can see that, you know, feeding on a squirrel here and on. And I think, like I say, when you look at that, you look at the design work and on. I mean, it's solid stuff. Here's also a print within this, you know, Sean prints for Massacre at Outpost 37. I mean, looking at that, that is awesome in my opinion. I love the way that sets up. So what is Stardust? Stardust is a 20-page, one-shot horror sci-fi story with the potential to become 28 pages if we hit our stretch goal. Stardust is about an alien species who lands here on Earth. Most are shot down, but one escapes the gunfire and tries to get even. Now, their initial goal is $2,050, which is not really high within this stuff. That covers paying Sean for his time drawing the rest of the book. So far, the cover and pages 1 and 5 are done, as well as paying the letterer, Nikki Powers. The rest of the money goes right to printing and shipping. You know, why should you back people? They talk about that as well. I think there's good stuff in here, and I'm not going to cover everything within it. I actually want to look at a couple of the levels, though, because I think the buy-in for this is actually very reasonable, too. If you don't feel like some of the higher campaigns out there with higher buy-ins are something that you want to back personally, you have options with this. I'm not trying to say don't back other things as well, but I'm saying, like, when you look at this, I think a $5 physical copy of Stardust, one within this, you know, so you have that plus shipping. I think that's very reasonable within that. You know, you can get that plus script and so on. So, I mean, when you're looking at that, you can go all the way to, you know, getting cover art within this or even becoming a character. I think that's kind of cool. And like I say, I like seeing stuff like this because you take part in making it happen. You say to people out there that, again, have been discriminated against because they press the follow button. You say your career is not dead. These people have no control. The people here that have control, that's me the consumer. And I like that. I like that. I like to say it. I like to say it loudly too. So anyhow, tell me what you think about this project. I think it looks good. And I think when we're going forward, I want to spotlight more projects that do exactly this. Now, not everyone has a resume like Nasir does. Not everyone has been in those proverbial trenches. That doesn't lessen what they bring. But I really think someone like Nasir here, I definitely think that they're worth backing. And I wanted to put in part of the why. But there's so much more to that. I mean, essentially, it boils down to, do they have a good project? Do they act like professionals online? I think we're talking about an even playing field out here, and I think we're doing a lot to even it. So anyhow, tell me what you think about this, and I'll put the link in the description so you can support it. All right, thanks.